Peace. My name is Robert Lee Sims III, filmmaker, photographer, documentarian, creative artist. I'm here in Peru, Calca, Sacred Valley, with my brother.
How's it going, y'all? My name is Ausar. I am an entrepreneur, a spiritual guide, a spiritual leader. I'm also a mycologist, a herbalist, and many different things with inside of there and everything. I'm grateful to be here with my brother and everything to do this absolutely phenomenal interview.
Let's get to it.
Let's get to it.
Asar, pleasure to meet you.
Pleasure to meet you, man, brother.
My name is Robert Lee Sims III. I've been here in Peru for a little 2 days under a month. I was invited, and as the story has been told to me, the person who invited me was invited by you.
Hmm.
So this meeting is really for us to get a better understanding of this magic that people say Peru has. And maybe also to advise those of us in the West, in New York City, of an ability to come here and experience this magic and what it might do for them. I first want to ask this. The first thing is, like, how would you introduce yourself to the people, to the world?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for allowing me to be here, brother. I'm really grateful, you know. I would introduce myself as a cultural memory specialist, as a spiritual life coach, someone who brings a person from one stage of their life to their desired state. Um, Also a historian, also a guide, also a mycologist, you know. So ultimately, I would categorize myself as, yeah, I would say a spiritual life coach.
I love that. And so it goes to say you've been doing this journey before you came to Peru, right? So let's tap in. Like, why Peru? What was inside you to see that they had something here in Peru that would benefit all of us on a
So,
conscious level?
so when even before I came down here, I was really getting fixated on the plants. And the plants do so many different things, but from more of a intrinsic magical perspective, you know, this is what kind of caught my eye and everything. Like, what can the plants do to heal our bodies? Not just if we ingest them in tinctures or in medicines like this, but also in like smoke remedies and everything, you know, or other different ways that can interact with the body. You know, I was very curious upon. And then one of my best friends, who is an herbalist, I went over to her and I told her that I was very interested in trying ayahuasca, you know. And I was doing a lot of research on it, you know, because I was hearing all these different phenomenal things from this plant. But I didn't want to sit with it in New York, you know, or anywhere in the United States, actually. So I just said, I feel like I need to go to some place like Peru, you know? And she was like, well, I have a perfect place that you can go to, you know, it's a retreat down there and everything where you'll be learning permaculture and design. And then also you'll be learning the inner lens, which is doing ayahuasca and all that stuff. And I was like, sign me up
Right.
and everything, you know? So like, got all signed up and everything, came down here. And when I first came down here, it was like, because I came straight from Manhattan, and it was the exact opposite coin and nothing I've ever experienced before. And it just pulled me in every aspect of this land, from like the mountains, from the nature to the magic, the ceremonies, the jungle, the people, the energy of the land itself and everything. Everything, you know, was just like, you need to be here now and for a while,
Yeah.
you know?
And that wild turned into
9 years.
And so when I first met you, I was like, you just left New York City and went 9 years living a total opposite life. There must have been culture shocks, but at the same time, it seems you fortified your body to be able to live in any environment and adapt to multiple places
Mm-hmm.
with, this magic that's here in Peru.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like the mountains make you stronger.
Mm-hmm.
It's a similar city, it's a similar ecosystem, but
Mm-hmm.
it's like the mountains make you stronger.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just in awe. In those 9 years, what was the discipline like to say,
Discipline to me was being here. It forces someone to go into internal states of healing.
whew,
You know, it forces old past heaviness or traumas or different things like this. Even when you're just existing here, not sitting with no plants, it makes all these things come up. So while all of these things came up, I had to face them with inside of myself, and I had to relieve them from my body so that I'm more fortified. And then when I go back to the States, just like you said, the first couple of times I got reverse culture shock. It was really, really wild and everything because I got so used to this environment, then going back to that environment and seeing like the disharmony really kind of like
yes.
put my body in a shock and everything. So I had to come back here and everything. So then doing the practices, going to the gym, doing my dance, doing capoeira and everything, going into the mountains and everything. Now doing yoga almost every day and everything, my meditations and everything, pouring libations. All of these practices is what has allowed myself to be sustained energetically and physically, because a lot of times when people come here, they get lost in the spiritual side of it and they don't take care of their body. So I've watched that happen many times, and I was like, mind, body, and spirit, we have to do all of them. So all of these practices allowed me to fortify my mind, body, and spirit so that I can be here or be in New York or be in the Caribbean and Jamaica or wherever in the world and everything, and adapt pretty freely, man.
I love how you talked about dance, capoeira, getting the body physical. I had the opportunity to join you in 2 of your dance classes where we're doing the hustle, right? And smooth, very smooth. At the same time, I looked at it as a community building piece because right now we're in Calca, Sacred Valley, but where the dancing is in Pisac, right? And just to touch in Pisac because the energy there is different, and I was told that the energy has always been market energy because that's where one of the trading places were. So I as soon as we touched down in Pisac, the energy to me felt like, oh, this is the Soho of Peru, or this is the Soho of Calca, or this is the village. It has that energy and that vibe. Can you explain, not explain, but just touch bases on like how is that possible? Or not even how is it possible, it's like why is it like that? Is that due to the tourism? Is that due to, everybody coming to Peru looking for magic and some people just saying, you know what, I can make a new life here and stay here and turn this into something, modern? Am I making sense? Or
Yeah, 100%. That is a result of neocolonialism.
Really?
100%. It is people who have the money and the means to come down and buy a lot of indigenous things, objects, ponchos, hats, scarves, the spiritual tools and everything. And they know that the spiritual wellness industry in the world is a multi-billion-dollar industry now, okay? Because there are so many people in the world that wants to go into spiritual wellness in some type of way. So then they buy these things from the indigenous at a cheaper price and everything. They flip it and everything to a higher price, American dollar price, and then they create a big store around it and everything, And then other people with money come down and they start doing the same things. And then they want houses because they now live there. So if they want houses, they want top-notch houses. So since they have the money, then they are going to pay the top-notch prices that are like $1,000 a month that are outside of the Peruvian range, because Peruvians get about $1,000 a year in total equity. And then when they all live here, now that they have created neighborhoods, now they have created a community, giant community there. And then that is causing gentrification, because since the whole entire land, that whole part of Pisac is the property taxes is raising and everything, because the prices of the houses are bigger. I mean, the houses are bigger and everything, so the prices are a lot more expensive. Then it's raising the taxes and everything of that whole part of the land and everything. So it's literally just like what we're seeing in Brooklyn.
I was just about to say, it sounds so similar to where we come from.
Yep.
Of a game that's being played. But then, not to get off tangent, and I do this sometimes, but I've been traveling. India, Ghana, the Caribbean, and now Peru. And some can even say it's happening in Ghana, with a lot of us wanting to go back to West Africa and find some connection, roots, grounding, understanding, better life. And I love this because, like you said, even for people who don't want to come here and partake in the plant medicine, you're still going to get changed because the air is different. The food quality is different. You have to walk to get certain places. If you're doing the mountain treks, your body is being pushed. So this thing is what we're looking for. What I say a lot of people are looking for is just a better quality of life that some people aren't finding in cities in the city, in America. So I just wanted to touch on that. And maybe that's why I'll segue into, that's the reason why I was curious to come. As I said, I've been traveling India, Ghana, West Africa, Trinidad and Tobago for the carnival, which I also have lineage connections to. And I wasn't ready to go back to New York because the weather isn't what I want it to be. It was no motion for me right now. Like, where can I go next? I was invited to be part of an art residency, Aini art residency. Aini, reconnectiveness and reciprocity. There are so many mirroring traditions, customs through all indigenous different tribes across the world, the places I come from, India and Asia over there, at the whole continent of Africa, the whole of the Caribbean, and now Peru. When you realize that, like, there's something that connects us all who want a better way of life, want to live off of nature, live in harmony with nature, what does that do for you? What does that do for your mind, psyche?
It allows me to know that there are a good amount of people in this world who are really committed to connecting with nature and themselves and healing in the environment. And it allows me to know that there's a place of rest, but it's also a place of growth, because these places that are in harmony with nature is like it gives so much. You can feel how much the nature cares about the people, just by the energy of the land, or just by how the air is and everything, and how the food is and how all these different things is, and it allows us to understand that there are places that are in states of harmony, The land, the people are in harmony with the land, the land is in harmony with the sky and the cosmos and everything, like when it rains, then they get their crops and then they can sell their crops and everything and have food and all the different things, if it doesn't rain, then they need to do a ritual or a ceremony and everything so the rain can come,
Powerful. So I'm glad we're going to stay on topic of business and spirituality. A lot of us are traveling with a product called a retreat. Any thoughts on that?
Yes, absolutely. So I am also a entrepreneur. I'm a businessman. I've been running one of the longest POC-led retreats here in Peru for our generation for the last 7 years. It's called Illuminating Color. Okay. And Illuminating Color is now a university, online university, where people can come and learn from all of the different curricula of arts, whether or not if it's ritualistic arts, or actual music and crafts and arts, things like this, or spiritual arts, or learning about the ecology through botany and herbalism to astronomy to spiritual history, to ceremonies, to movement arts, and ultimately bring people into a place where they want to come here.
And that's a good segue because we were talking about resorts.
Uh-huh.
And then we could talk about Dr. Anthony Browder.
Yeah.
We could talk
Yeah.
about Professor James Smalls.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Because at the end of the day, that's how, even I loved Kwanzaa.
Mm-hmm.
Every December, boys and girls.
Mhm.
One year, Dr. Manga Kalan, the name,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to butcher the name, but the person who created Kwanzaa, he came.
Wow.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So I know that it's through traveling, it's through conferences, seminars, retreats,
Yeah.
that knowledge is shared.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about your retreat.
So my retreat is a retreat that's for people of color to come down, to have a bridge to the indigenous nations, and have access to the sacred plants of legend, A lot of us are just starting to get into these plants. You may be known as famous ayahuasca and everything, or like psilocybin, how the clinical trials are happening in Johnson & Johnson, Iboga, these plants and everything. They are doing a lot of these trials, and people are coming to them because they are known to provide real healing, and not just like the pharmaceutical industry, where it's just like treating the symptoms, just a bit and everything. So people are coming down by the masses. People are also wanting to find safe space, a safe space to come and do these plants and everything, because a lot of times if we don't feel comfortable doing a yoga class that we're, say, for example, if we're like the only like black folk that are in there and everything, and then there's a bunch of white folk and everything, a lot of times, to be real, don't feel comfortable and everything, And a lot of times people want to find like a POC, like yoga classes or this or that and everything. Imagine ceremonies. Ceremonies where your whole mind, your consciousness, your spirit, your everything is opened up to the world or everybody that's in that ceremony. And like, you don't know what could happen inside that ceremony and everything. So to provide our beautiful people of color with a safe space to come down, learn from the indigenous people, learn the traditions, the cultures, the philosophies, the understandings, and have a chance to partake in these ceremonies, so that we can...
We partook in one.
Yeah, and it was amazing.
It was amazing. And from the response of everyone else, it's the first time they felt that calmness. And it always, it's hard for the common or the regular person to think of spirituality and think of melanin when he has to pay his bills every day, right? He's just stuck in the system. Because we both come from New York. We come from the Ave. And anytime I brought up any spirituality or honoring the ancestors, people would be like, oh, that's, But now it feels like we're in a moment where everyone's gravitating towards spirituality, African ancestry, Yoruba, Santa Maria, ayahuasca. They said it's the age of the Aquarius, the age of information, enlightenment. Is that why everyone's just gravitating towards this consciousness? Or is it that billionaires are just controlling so much, so now people are just trying to find a way out? Because either life looks like, this way we're not winning, there's another way to win. Not really win, but feel free, feel confident.
Yeah, well, I honestly believe that it's almost even both because it's like both sides of two sides of a spectrum, you know, like yes, we are going into this age of Aquarius. In my opinion, my explanation of that, the earth is tilting towards the sun again because the earth is on the axis, and whether or not if it's tilted away from the sun or towards the sun is whether or not if our minds consciousnesses is toward the light or away from the light, you know. And that is also in direct correlation with the people who are controlling the world and everything, all these stuff and everything that we hear with the e-files and all this stuff, and people wanting to move away from that because that's coming to light because the earth is shifting back towards the light and everything. People are starting to see what's going on, and then they want to come back to natural earth-based spiritual philosophies and everything, you know, especially cultural.
And in just our own talkings and meetings, we've named some big names. I've actually screenshotted an event that's happening in Buffalo, May 30th, with Professor James Smalls, and he was like, "Yeah, I know the brother," you know. And then during another talk, we was talking about Anthony Browder and his Egypt tours, and so obviously the community's been there.
Yeah.
And it feels like there's a new generation that is hoping to carry on the mantles.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that? Because we could go 19 Keys, Dr. Umar Johnson, this and that. There's so much.
Yeah.
Everyone, you know, is there, and obviously you are one of them holding the mantle as well. Did you realize that, or do you look at your Instagram followers and think that, or are you, what is your thought process? How do you handle it?
I would see myself as holding the plant side of the mantle for it and everything, because not just like these sacred plants, but all of the different types of plants, medicinal plants for the body and everything, you know. But now going into these elders, yeah, we think about, you know, some folks like 19 Keys and Dr. Umar, they're great, but our elders, our scholarly elders, people who we're going to learn from, you know, like I don't really consider like 19 Keys or even Dr. Umar as somebody that I would like sit there and like I would learn from. Like I would go to the elder scholars, you know, like the ones who are in their 60s, 70s, 80s and everything that have done a huge staple on this world, especially for black folk, you know, and that's Professor Smalls, Anthony Browder. I actually had an elder down here who is their colleague, and his name is Professor Hunter Adams, and he's a cultural neuroscientist. And he's creating a book called We Were Never Slaves, you know, and took him around to see the temples and all the different things, you know. And it was phenomenal because I met those elders, especially Professor Anthony Browder and Professor Hunter Adams in Egypt, you know. And that was absolutely phenomenal during the solstice, you know. I met them when Professor Browder was unveiling that he found the tip of a pyramid, you know, and he put it inside a Luxor museum, you know. And then I actually met Professor Hunter Adams inside of the temple of Ramesses III, Habu Temple. And he was the only black man in there, and I was as well. And then I was in there with my homies, and then we walked in, and we were just like, "Hey, can we be with you?" Like, and he was like, "Yeah, of course," and everything, you know. And he was just talking about the philosophy and everything, you know. So I think it's very important to weave them into the story because they have all the knowledge that I've ever learned, you know, that's not indigenous, like Peruvian or spiritual, even spiritual, you know. But I mean, like coming from South America is honestly from them, you know, like 100%. Years of like listening to them and watching them. I don't know James Smalls personally. I met him like for a split second in the African Arts Festival, but I know Anthony Browder. I know his daughter, Atlantis Browder. His daughter, Atlantis Browder, has actually been here. She came to the Illuminating Color retreats, had a phenomenal, powerful, like transformational experience and everything. It was incredible, you know, and now, you know, weaving them into like the greater vision for the future of what Illuminating Color is doing and everything, you know, for the people, you know, and especially connecting Egypt to Peru. But But the elders, they're very, very important, to weave them if we want to actually understand what's going on. If we want to actually understand what has happened for the last 6,000 years, if we want to understand recent African American history, which is very important to understand and know. If we want to understand how to connect to our ancestors, all that stuff is Professor James Smalls.
Right. So basically, not to cut your wisdom, but we use those influences to bring them to the elders, because the elders got the knowledge. I always say the elders know which way to go. The youth just think they could get there faster, So, and through the conferences and the tours, is that how we are going to connect these dots?
Yes.
What's the product, or what's the experience? It's through traveling, through coming here.
Yes.
You hear that? You have to come here to one of my brother's retreats. You have to go to the conferences that the elders put on, the African street festivals, the festivals in Philly, the Odun, name some. Or they have to go to these programs that our elders are putting on and gain that knowledge. And then there are retreats happening. Then there's trips happening. They're taking you on trips. I remember the Dessert Club used to take people to Egypt every year. So travel. That's what this main thing is about. Traveling, exploring, getting out of your comfort zone, climbing a mountain, trying some herbal tea.
Yeah. These things change you. Honestly, even Malcolm X said that traveling is a great way to expand one's soul. Right after he came back from Egypt. It's all about traveling.
How are you going to connect Peru to Egypt?
Oh,
how are you going to connect?
Great question. Great question. Oh, I've done this in my mind. So, especially
because first of all, give them a little backstory. Peru Calca, we're in the land of the Incas.
Yes. So right now we are in the Sacred Valley of the Incas. The Sacred Valley is the land, literally the land of the Incan nation. Cusco was the capital of the Incan Empire. Okay, Cusco City.
Yeah.
And the people who built Machu Picchu, which was the ancient Incan observatory, also a ecological center and a astrological center, are living around us. They're all here, So like, this is a very, very, very powerful land. This land is called the Sacred Valley, literally on the map for a reason. That is the actual name of this land for a reason. There's no other place on Earth, especially not on this side of the planet, that's called the Sacred Valley, And it's called that because these mountains are alive. This land is alive, like these mountains are made out of quartz crystal, like they're called mountain spirits, which are apples, and the indigenous people are constantly in rituals and rites with this land, giving this land life force and energy, and the land is giving it back to the people, So it's very, very powerful, okay? When you come to this land, it has a way of reactivating someone's magic, like inner magic, like deepest magic from in their blood, in their bones, in their culture, and reawakening it, like igniting it, So how I connect that with Egypt, especially for us, black folk, especially brown folk, is we come down here to reawaken the magic that's inside of us. Like all of this spiritual different things that we're doing, like other than like going to our African origin, like spiritual places to learn traditional African spiritual philosophy. Just the magic itself that we're connected to, that's inside of everyone without tapping into any philosophy in any like cultural sense and everything, just that innate magic is so abundant here. So people can come here and they'll tap into that. And then when they tap into that, their memories or their culture is going to instantly align them to their innate root spiritual cultural philosophy. That's what happens a lot in everything, especially for people of color and everything. That happens a lot, you know. So when that magic is awakened, and then now they're wanting to learn more about their roots and where their root magic comes from and everything, that's what leads them over to Africa. Okay. And then when they go over to Africa, a lot of times people are connected, and what gets activated inside of people is the Nile Valley region, whether or not if it's Egypt, Sudan, or Ethiopia, that whole land. Yes, we get tapped into the Orishas or the Obosun, you know, from the Khan or, you know, Yoruba, and we do get tapped into that very much and everything, because that's also very alive here. But when you go into these ceremonies, a lot of times, people start seeing things from Egypt or ancient Egypt, Kemet. People start seeing images like flashbacks, you know, visionaries from this land, and they wonder what's going on.
Yeah.
Like, you know, so that's even how when I had my very first ayahuasca ceremony, I saw 3 pyramids. I went into the ancestral plane, you know. And
I saw the bird people. They were headed.
yeah.
Remember I told you?
Yeah.
That's Jazz. That's connecting everything. She's the connection, the glue. You know. Thank you.
Of course, you needed to meet.
So yeah, you know, like now Egypt will allow the cultural remembrance. Who am I? That is what is there is what's going to answer that question. Okay, because when you go there and you go in those temples and you go down to Aswan and you meet them people that look all like the brothers and sisters and cousins and aunts and uncles that we got in our family, then that question is answered like this. Okay, so then the magic is awakened, and then the remembrance is awakened to this total unified person. Like, I know myself now.
Yes.
I know who I am now. I know my power now. I know my mission because I know who I am now. I know where I come from. You know, so that is the connecting point of these 2 different lands for our people.
I love the way you put it. You're definitely your spiritual coach. Getting back to what we talked about in the earlier, you get someone from point A to point B, and a lot of us are on that journey. I'm on that journey. I believe those people that follow my page or just view the content love to put themselves on journey as well, because you feel good about the growth. You feel good about growth. And I know from my little time in here in Peru, I have grown. And I'm excited to see how I'm going to go back to the city and use this experience. I remember after the pandemic, I went to it's like a street fair in Queens, and I asked the guy, "Why do we go to the mountains? You know, like why do we go? Why do we do these things?" He says, and this is what he told me. He said, "You go to the mountain to gain the knowledge, but then you come back to the city to test to see if you know that knowledge well, or to test yourself."
Yes.
You know, because the discipline is in the mountain. The discipline is far away from the cities, but in the city is where you test yourself. Yes. I want to thank you for this conversation.
Thank you so much for having me, man.
Thank you for having me. We in your yard. Take a deep breath. Thank you for watching. I hope you gained something from this. I hope you want to come to Peru. If you want to come to Peru, I have the connect for you. And we could go to Egypt too. That's already in talks, right? I want to thank my brother Ausar. Thank you so much again for like just taking this time. We're in his yard. We came to him and he graced us. So I just want to thank you for the time.
Thank you.
Thank you for the knowledge. I hope y'all get some of it.
Yes.
Peace.
Peace.